The invitation looked like an ordinary e-ticket until I turned it over, and the paper dissolved into a soft blue fog that whispered, "Welcome to the Tri-Spiral Jubilee on Carina 7. I'd spent the past year vlogging from one backwater moon to another, chasing views from my tiny channel lonely orbit, so a galaxy-wide cultural festival sounded like the bump I needed. I sold my battered freighter for scrap, booked passage on a passenger liner, and practiced the Jubilee's greeting, 3 short whistles followed by a wink, into my cabin mirror. According to the travel forums, first impressions mattered on Carina 7. Mispronounce a whistle, and you might offend someone's grandmother or worse, someone's digestive symbiote. Carina 7's capital, Helix Harbor, was a living kaleidoscope. Twin suns painted the sky lavender while floating barges drifted overhead, dispensing shimmering confetti that dissolved into harmless photons before it touched the ground. Merchants from 100 systems hawked crystalline noodles, liquid music spheres, and gravity-free hammocks. My recording drone darted beside me, capturing every surreal detail. A troupe of Vestrian dancers, think 6 slim dragonflies in silk, performed aerial pirouettes above the plaza's centerpiece, a colossal brass clock that ticked in 3 temporal dimensions at once. I should have focused on the schedule. Keynote fireworks at the Antimatter Lagoon, story swap beside the memory trees, the much-hyped masquerade of echoes. But I was busy filming crowd reactions when I bumped into a stall trimmed with silver ferns. Every fern frond carried tiny bells that chimed like rain. Behind them stood a girl. If girl applied to a being with opalescent teal skin and hair that flowed like liquid starlight even when the breeze stopped. She wore a half-mask carved from pearlescent shell, accentuating eyes that shimmered between gold and violet. Before I could apologize, the drone zipped in for a close-up. She laughed, a sound like chimes inside a cathedral organ, and my knees nearly forgot how gravity worked. "Careful," she said in flawless galactic basic, though her lips barely moved. "These bells record first words. Yours will now live with me forever." Froze. Sorry. Is that bad?" "It is charming," she replied, producing a quill of pure light and scroll of woven mist. With a flourish she wrote something I couldn't read. "By festival law you owe me a story, a song, or a secret." My vlogger instincts kicked in. "How about a story with pictures?" I gestured to the drone. "I'm Rian Holt, wandering videographer and professional idiot." I told her about leaving Earth's overcrowded megastructures to backpack the Orion Arm, how I filmed micro-documentaries no algorithm cared about, and how my subscriber count hovered around the same number as my shoe size. She listened, head tilted, bells glinting in her hair. When I finished, she extended a slender hand. "I'm Lyra of the Marble Crescent, apprentice whimscribe. Come, Rian Holt, professional idiot. Let us trade fame for fate." I assumed that was a quirky local idiom. Spoiler, it was not. We spent the afternoon exploring. Lyra narrated legends that quivered in the air as living holograms. There was a trick to her voice, part storytelling, part sorcery. We rode a zero-G carousel composed of orbiting moons the size of dinner plates. We tasted comet dust pastries that fizzed cold lightning across the tongue. I forgot views and uploads and even to check my word counts. I just lived. When the sun set and the festival lights bloomed like nebulae at street level, Lyra tugged me toward what she called the Knotting Grove. Luminescent ribbons floated between ancient spiral-barked trees. Couples stepped beneath them, arms linked, while officiants in silver robes sang a low thrumming harmony. It looked romantic, so I kept filming, until Lyra guided me under a ribbon. He climbed my neck. Lyra. Is this a promise ceremony?" she said softly. "Two wanderers tie their fortunes for a cycle of moons. It can be annulled at dawn if hearts misalign." But if the ribbon burns violet at midnight, the knot is beyond untying. My brain flipped through cultural databases like a malfunctioning Rolodex. Temporary vow. Okay, quirky but harmless. Annul at dawn, fine. Ribbon-burning violet sounded like a cosmic mood ring. Views would skyrocket if my audience saw a human-alien pseudo-wedding. Sure, I heard myself say. An officiant draped the ribbon, a strand of bioluminescent silk spore, across our intertwined wrists. Lyra whispered something in her native tongue, vowels bending like orbit paths. I repeated it as best I could. The ribbon glowed soft blue, merging its ends into a perfect loop. Cheers erupted. Then the officiant stamped our palms with holographic sigils, and everyone clapped harder. Only later did I notice a line on the ceremony plaque I'd ignored. Blue bonds 2 lives until destiny claims them. Violet seals them beyond stars. Midnight hit. Fireworks saturated the sky. Our ribbon flickered and flared brilliant violet. The next morning I woke on a hammock woven from what felt like liquid cloud, blinking up at a ceiling of translucent petals. Lyra sat beside me, legs folded, sipping steaming nectar. Good dawn, spouse. She said it like testing a foreign flavor. I sat bolt upright. Spouse. She touched our wrists. Faint sapphire circles remained. The vow matured. We are married. I scrambled for the plaque, my translator lens, any loophole. But it was symbolic. An annulment option. Only if hearts misaligned by dawn, she said calmly. You slept with your hand over mine. The vow interpreted profound concordance. Her smile wavered. Do you regret it? Panicked adrenaline collided with yesterday's wonder. Regret. Hard to say. I barely knew her species' lifespan, let alone her breakfast preferences. Yet some part of me, call it the reckless traveler who traded security for stars, thrummed with the absurd rightness of it. Lyra watched every emotion flicker across my face. Before I could answer, a gong outside boomed. Lyra's eyes widened. The Crescent matriarch arrives. Cue entry of her family. 6 towering figures with prism-veined skin and ceremonial garb that cascaded like waterfalls. The matriarch's voice reverberated without sound, manifesting directly in my bones. Human mate, you honor our line. Prove devotion in 3 trials, and we shall bless your union. Trials. Nobody said anything about trials. But the matriarch was already floating away on a litter of singing moths. Lyra gripped my hand. We can still part ways, she murmured, though hope glimmered in her eyes. Exhaled. Somewhere between terror and fascination lay opportunity. Precisely the zone my channel needed. Let's pass those trials, I said, voice steadier than my pulse. Together. Trial 1. The Echo Maze. We descended into a labyrinth carved inside an asteroid fragment suspended above the festival. The walls were polished obsidian that reflected not images but thoughts. Each surface shimmered with memories. To exit, one must walk unflinchingly past every hidden fear. If a fear made you look away, the maze reshaped itself, trapping you deeper. My first reflection showed Earth's smog-shrouded megascrapers, my parents' disappointed faces as I boarded the freighter years ago. The guilt stormed back, but Lyra squeezed my fingers. Her presence steadied me. We advanced. Another wall displayed me editing footage at 3 a.m. for 0 views, bank account flashing negative. I swallowed shame and stared it down. Lyra faced her own images. A childhood of rigorous whim-scribe training, the weight of expectations, the lonely corridors of Marble Crescent libraries. She trembled once, then walked on. At the center of the maze, twin reflections merged, showing us side by side beneath a violet ribbon. The maze opened into daylight. Trial 1 completed. Trial 2. The harmonic gauntlet Carina 7's lower stratosphere housed platforms hovering on antigravs, arranged like frets on a cosmic guitar. Contestants leapt from platform to platform. Each impact released a note. Only the melodies aligned with crescent tradition would unlock the finish gate. Lyra knew the song Orbit of Two. But the platforms responded to mass variation. One human misstep could detune the piece. We rehearsed rhythm by humming together, our voices weaving. Leaping in half-gravity felt like dancing on invisible waves. Lyra signaled, I echoed. Each landing chimed crystalline. At the final stretch a storm gust shoved me off pattern, souring a chord. Platforms began to descend. Failure imminent. Lyra screamed my name, sprang across 3 frets, and caught my wrist mid-plummet. Our combined weight struck the right note by accident, perfectly bent in microtonal nuance. The gate burst open in a fanfare of lights. Trial 2 survived. Trial 3. The verdict of stars atop the festival's highest spire. We met the matriarch and her council. Above us, a translucent dome displayed real-time constellations translated into shifting sigils. For the final trial we would speak vow truths. The stars would confirm sincerity. Lies would manifest as black voids, nulling the marriage and exiling the deceiver. The council posed questions. Rian Holt, do you seek this union for novelty or fame? I opened my mouth and felt heat behind my eyes, a searing warning against dishonesty. I admitted everything, that I'd started recording for clicks, that accidental marriage felt like a sensational headline, but that somewhere between comet dust pastries and Lyra's laugh, the story became secondary. I still want to show the galaxy, I said, voice cracking, but only if she's beside me when the credits roll. No void appeared. The stars brightened. Lyra of Crescent, do you bind your path to this off-world wanderer for defiance of duty? She inhaled. Yes and no. I sought a whisper of freedom, but found a symphony. With him I am not escaping lineage. I'm composing a new verse of it. The constellations swirled into twin spirals intertwining. Verdict, truthful. The matriarch touched both our foreheads with a staff crowned by a living starling nebula. Union acknowledged. May your song echo beyond epochs. Applause from gathered relatives, spectators, even my hovering drone, live-streaming to an audience that was now, suddenly, enormous. Married life began in a blur of interviews, sponsorship offers, and integration paperwork. Galactic Media dubbed us the ribbon couple. My channel subscribers jumped from 3 digits to 8 overnight. Algorithms feasted. Yet with notoriety came friction. Managers wanted scripted romantic moments. Tourism boards dangled paid junkets. Fan forums dissected our every gesture for authenticity. One evening we slipped away to Helix Harbor's quieter docks. The water there wasn't water but condensed starlight. Each ripple revealed faint constellations. Lyra dangled her feet in the glow. Do you miss anonymity? She asked. Sometimes. But mostly I'm afraid the audience will decide what our marriage means before we do. She twirled a ribbon of luminous algae. Let's define it ourselves then. So we did. We set boundaries. Private days, off-camera rituals. We kept the drone but programmed it to film only when both of us tapped a consent sequence. Views dipped, but loyal fans stayed. We began co-creating. I filmed exotic locales. Lyra narrated their hidden myths, weaving visuals and words into something neither of us could have made alone. The series Wander and Whim trended across the net. But the galaxy, ever dramatic, wasn't content with splice-of-life romance. 6 months into our union, a diplomatic delegation from the Vortex Dominion arrived on Carina 7, contesting crescent rights to certain star harvest routes. Tensions simmered beneath the Jubilee's follow-up festival. When Dominion saboteurs targeted the tri-spiral clock, planning to freeze time harmonics and crash tourism, the authorities were outmaneuvered. Our knowledge of the clock's resonance, remember those 3 temporal dimensions, and Lyra's harmonic expertise placed us at the crisis's center. We broke into the sealed clock tower using credentials earned during our rise to fame. Inside, Dominion devices pulsed with void energy set to detonate at peak festival attendance. The sabotage would fracture local space-time, creating a scandal that would discredit Crescent leadership. No pressure. Lyra deciphered the void schematics. I rewired the Livestream drone into a frequency jammer. Working in near silence, we redirected the void pulse into the clock's temporal buffer, essentially forcing the explosion to occur 6 hours before the device was armed. The tower shuddered, then stilled. Time hiccuped, confetti froze for a heartbeat, and resumed. Outside, the festival never noticed. Authorities arrested the saboteurs, footage of our intervention went viral, and Carina 7's Security Council offered us honorary stewardship of the clock, a symbolic recognition that we, entwined by chance, had stabilized shared history. 1 orbit later, our freighter Ribbon's Edge slid through warp, headed for the Anemone Nebula where drifting gas whirls sing ultrasonic chorales. I sat in the cockpit editing our latest episode, Lyra teaching me to read whimscript glyphs that change depending on reader emotion. She leaned over my shoulder, adjusting a color balance curve with quick, confident fingers. Subtitle timing's off, she noted. Caught me, I admitted, fixing it. Hard to sync dialogue when the camera shakes from spontaneous anti-grav. A comfortable silence settled. Comfort, the true prize among stars. I remembered that first day. My accidental step into her Belfern stall, that impulsive stroll beneath a floating ribbon. Absurd, reckless, miraculous. Hey, I said, pausing the edit. Do you ever think about what if the ribbon had stayed blue? She considered. We'd still have met. Serendipity was already in motion. But perhaps we'd be walking separate orbits. I took her hand, tracing the faint sapphire tattoo around our wrists, now permanent, though softened to a gentle glow. Glad destiny disagreed. She smiled. Destiny listens to those who whistle boldly out of tune. She whistled then, 3 quick notes and a wink, the festival greeting. I echoed it, imperfect but earnest. Our drone silently recorded, but this moment wasn't for the feed. It was for us. Ahead, the nebula blossomed into view, hues shifting like thoughts across the cosmos. Together we guided the ship forward, spouses, partners, co-conspirators in wonder, proof that sometimes the most incredible adventures begin with a mispronounced whistle and an accidental vow under alien stars. And that, viewers, is what happened when I accidentally married an alien girl at a galactic festival. If you ever attend the Tri-Spiral Jubilee, mind your whistles, guard your secrets, but maybe leave room in your itinerary for destiny.